Oh, the top 50 big board. It's NFL Combine week, and I'm here with Matty Kiwoom on the Draft Ranking Show. I appreciate you guys for tapping in with us every single day of the week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube or on podcast the following morning. Matty Kiwoom is going through maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 feet of snow this time. Last time was the Senior Bowl, and he didn't make it. And now he's got about a middle school child heights worth of snow in his front yard. Are you just
Dude,
throwing your kids out in the yard now, just like going
yeah,
timeout, just head first?
yeah, if I wanted to execute my children via snow suffocation, that's how much there's a lot of white stuff going on, but I have to say this though, Cody, I am very grateful that we live in the age of the internet, that this is all proof, you could prove it, because if there wasn't a way for me to prove it, you and Alex would think I was the biggest bullshit artist on the planet. Nah, I can't go to Mobile, dude, there's a ridiculous snowstorm. Nah, I can't go to India. It's a ridiculous snowstorm. You'd be like, this guy has no tricks up his sleeve. But no, it is. I am now
This guy's
sitting
a
in what
pussy.
it is. I am sitting what is the most prolific snowstorm in the history of my life, my parents' life. And it's funny because in Massachusetts, people will know what I'm talking about. So shout out to all my mass holes out there. Every time you brought up a snowstorm, a blizzard, the old heads would be like, it ain't 78. There was no blizzard in 78. No way with no 78. Now, it's over, baby. It's now the blizzard of 2026. All further snow accumulations will now be here compared to the blizzard of 26.
And you were there for it. And I will say, Maddie, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter skating through, riding sled dogs, like they've made their way out of Mass. McShay and Mensch, who are famously in Mass and New Hampshire, both already in Indy.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen. This is honestly not a comment on me. This is the view. Get the viewers up. Make it so that I 6 figs, dude. I'll traverse the land for some 6 figs.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about the top 50, your top 100 big board. Do you have 100 or more on there over at Player Profile?
Right now at playerprofile.com, you can get my 100 top 100 big board. We have now gone from 50 to 75 to 100. Right before the combine, there are going to be some massive changes coming up after the combine, as you know, this process dictates. But I think what my big board has proven to me anyway is my disgust for too much big change. I know there's been fallers, there's been risers, but I try not to just throw these wild ups and downs. There are some, one of which we'll probably talk about, influenced by you, my friend. But yeah, I try to stay in the pocket, with my top 50, even top 75, top 100. But after this week, after the combine, you kind of find out a lot about some of these athletes, what we're looking at. And so there's some big changes to come, but I'm at 100 right now.
All right, and I got my top 50 up at rosterwatch.com. I was trying to get to 100. I didn't quite finish out a couple of positions like I wanted to. So hopefully I can do that in the next week or two. But top 50 is up over there. And there's a couple of notable things that I want to talk about, Maddie, that we differentiate about in our top, I guess we'll just say top 50. That's how I'm going to sell the show. It's just the top 50 conversation. Is at the top of the food chain, you have David Bailey, number 1, followed by Ruben Bain. Everyone wants to know how these guys are all deciphered amongst everybody in the space right now is the edge rushers. Which one do you have first? Who's going to draft who first? Who's Tennessee going to get this guy? Is Arizona going to get that guy? So you have David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, 6'3", 250 at 1. You have Ruben Bain, 6'3", 270 from Miami, who is a big talking point because some people think that he can play inside or should play inside. Some people think he'll play outside. He's supposed to have shorter arms here at the combine. We'll see what happens with that. But you have a number 2, and then you have Arvell Reese, the 2025 breakout at number 5 overall, 6'3", 243, 20 and a half years old from Ohio State. I have it Arvell Reese 1, Bailey 2, and then I don't have Ruben Bain until number 8. So I guess for me, I'll just say this, and then I'll bounce it back to you. The reason I have Arvell Reese number 1 is the positional versatility that I see in him. I wouldn't say I'm worried about David Bailey, Um, he's just a leaner prospect that is not one-dimensional, but maybe two-dimensional. And I look at Arvell Reese and I see a guy that can – the way that he was used last year at Ohio State by Matt Patricia, I think it's going to make a lot of these guys in the NFL goo goo gaga over him. And if I was in a position to be a defensive coordinator, I would be going goo goo gaga because I'd say, well, I want a Micah Parsons type. All right, well, I can have Arvell Reese do that. All right, I want a Fred Warner type. I think I can make Arvell Reese do that. And whatever your conversation is, I think that he can fit into that mold. So the versatility for me is what put him over Bailey. Again, like I said, I have Bailey too, though. So yeah, that's where I sit with those two. And then Ruben Bain, I have a little bit lower down at 8. Actually comes in after TJ Parker as well at the edge position, who I put in at number 6. And again, worried about the length there with Ruben Bain more than anything. And I'll be honest, there were some games where you kind of look at Akeem Mesidor, the other edge for Miami, and he's kind of more impressive, which for a guy like who's, again, going to be a top 5, top 6 pick, it's like, I want that guy to be the most impressive on every single down.
So, all right, let's start with Reese because, and of course, you have to put this qualifier out there. And I know it sucks to do it because it makes you sound like wishy-washy. Doesn't make you really sound like definitive in your process, but you have to do it. I'm splitting hairs here. I have Arvell Reese at 5. And the other guys are at 1 and 2. We're talking about
this is the definition of splitting hairs.
It's little. Yes, we are literally splitting hairs here. But you talk about position flexibility as his highlight, and I can't disagree. But where I do kind of want to negate that boost for him is you can have that type of flexibility when you share a field with players that he shared the field with last year with a defensive coordinator like Matt Patricia. He's probably not going to have that luxury. Whoever drafts him is not going to have a top 1 or 2 defense in the league with ridiculous athletes all over it with a defensive-minded, call it what it is, a genius. I mean, Matt Patricia's been a genius when it comes to building defenses, the game plans for defenses. So I don't give him the position flexibility. I, in my process, have him as an edge rusher to have him as high as I do. If you're going to tell me he's going to play off the ball, then he's going to fall in my rankings. Because as an off-ball linebacker, yeah, I love him, but he doesn't really stand out that much more to me than an Anthony Hill Jr. if he's going to be an off-the-ball linebacker. But if he's going to be an edge rusher, Cody, he soars up because he's got that skill set. He has that Micah Parsons, and you hate to make the low-hanging fruit the comp, but it is what it is. So that's why he's so high. So I don't see position flexibility when it comes to Arvell Reese. He's only up here because I think he can rush at the quarterback.
I think that's interesting because you said an interesting name there, Anthony Hill Jr., who is not getting a lot of roses at the current stage among the mass NFL draft analysts. People putting him at linebacker 7 and 8 and 6
right.
And all the super low.
He was the Micah Parsons comp in August.
He was the Micah Parsons comp after his true freshman season.
Correct.
And it's been, I guess arguably or truthfully, it's kind of went down a tick at a time over the course of the last 2 years. He's also been banged up. He was also in a defensive scheme last year that didn't really help him. But I think that it's interesting that, I don't know, I guess it's a fair argument to say, well, if you're saying he's positionally flexible and that you would view him potentially like a team would say, we're the Titans, we're going to put this guy inside linebacker. You would say, what asshole would take him first overall?
Yeah, he's right? Not going second overall.
To play middle linebacker. I get that, totally. I don't think that's really the angle, though, more than anything. It's like saying what he can and can't do. It's what he can do it all. And it's more on a snap-to-snap basis thing where you can line him up anywhere and you can get up to the passer. If you wanted to line him up at middle backer or outside linebacker, like it doesn't really matter, would be my thing there. And like I said, with David Bailey, it's literally splitting hairs. I have him 2, Bailey 2. So I don't want to spend too much time on this top 5 guys. We both agree that they're all very good.
Very good.
What I do want to hit on is a couple of guys that maybe we are more ahead of consensus or public consensus on, or maybe behind, and then a couple of guys where we vastly differentiate. And because we talked about edge and we've talked about the state of Texas already, I want to bring up a name that we talked about pre-show a little bit, and that's Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell, an edge rusher from – wait, is he – what number did you have him at? 20.
20.
Cassius Howell is number 20 overall for you. It looks like he's ahead of Keldrick Falk, behind TJ Parker, like I am. You have Akeem Mezitor ahead of him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just to name a couple of edge rushers and outside linebackers and such around him. I do not have him in the top 50 at all. And I want to hear your thoughts, because top 20 is borderline for like first round. I'm assuming you potentially have a first round grade on him.
I do. Yeah, I have a first round. Yeah, I do.
So you have a first round grade on Howell. Okay. So that's my question more so than anything, is I'll just say I wasn't the most impressed with him during the year. Like there was a lot of hype in what he did specifically against LSU, where he was jaw jacking with the offensive tackle and he went up and got a couple of sacks. But he had, I think, 6 of his sacks, the 6 of his 9 or 6 of 11 sacks this year came against G5 schools, FCS schools. His arm length is supposedly going to be extremely short, like 31 inches. Like, that's extremely short for an edge. I don't know. He's also undersized. I think he's listed at like 240 pounds. I'm worried he's not even going to be 240 pounds. He's going to be somewhere in like 237, 238 area. Very small hipped type of a player. Not my preferred flavor at the edge position. I'll just say that off the hoof. So he didn't make my top 50, but he made yours in there at number 20. So just thoughts on Cassius Howell, edge out of Texas A&M.
Well, I think this is actually a great guy to bring up, because I think it really does put the spotlight on both of our processes. And I don't mean this to be a joke. I don't mean this to talk shit or anything, Cody, but your ability to project in your process, I think, is better than anybody in this entire space. I don't do that. So what you're having is the conversation that we could very well be having a week from now. But until he gets those knocks, until I see the arm length, until I see his size become for real, I see a guy that's had double-digit sacks the last 2 years. I've seen a guy that's gotten after the quarterback. And you're talking about a class where this is being labeled as a very historically deep edge class, and I don't disagree, but there's no for sure studs. Even David Bailey at the top of both our rankings is a bit of a Tasmanian devil. A little bit shorter, not that prototypical. There's no Myles Garrett's. There's no NFL grown in a lab edge rushers in this class. So until we start hashing out these arm lengths, these hand sizes, these measurables, I'm just gonna go by what I've seen on tape, and I've seen enough flashes from him, like I have in other edge rushers. But right now, it's an imperfect top 5 in the edge class. You have Arvell Reese, who's more of a riser through the year, as opposed to somebody that, we knew was going to be good, has stamped his approval. He's kind of a riser, which comes with its red flags, if you want to call it that, or whatever, hesitations, maybe is a better word. David Bailey, Reuben Bain have their shortcomings. You and I love TJ Parker, but there's been a lot of naysayers that's been against him because he had a terrible 2025. But I think both of us know that he's got the skills. He's got that it factor. And then there's Akeem Mezitor, who I love. I don't care that he's 42 years old. I don't care, because a contender is going to be able to put him on the field day one and help that defense. So I don't care. But there's all these little, beep, 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 beep. Everyone's got something to say. And I don't disagree with the Cassius Howell, whatever you want to call it, red flags, because he's moved up 9 spots from my 2.0 to 3.0 big board, because I maybe dinged him a little bit more for what I project. And then I kind of took that away and just went with what I saw, who he is, what he's listed at. But yeah, the things that you bring up is absolutely on the table for him being my biggest faller coming out of the combine.
One more name that I want you to talk about a little bit is one that I've heard on a couple of other shows. People talk about, oh, I really want to see what this guy runs. And, oh, I think if this guy gets under a 4.6, it's going to go a long way. That's a wide receiver that you've been touting for, and I think you have a flag behind you on the wall, is Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver from Indiana, who to be honest with you, don't have in my top 50. I don't even have him on like the forecasted top 100. I think he's a receiver. It doesn't really matter what he runs. He, to me, fits in the category of guys like Cooper Cup and like Puka Nakua, where it's like, run a 4.64. I don't care. Like, you're either going to be good in the system you get to, or
Mhm.
you're not going to be good in the system you go to. If that makes sense, like, that's not really a good way to analyze a player, I guess, but that's how I see him. And that I don't think he's a great separator. I don't think he does anything really exceptionally well. So I'm worried about him. But like I said, those two names I just listed have posted two of the most prolific seasons in the history of the sport. And so I'm saying I kind of see an avenue for him to be madly successful, not just okay. But you have always loved Elijah Surratt a little bit more than I, and you have him in your top 50 as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to love him. He has to fall. You're just being dishonest if you don't have certain guys fall, even if you love him. He's fallen 10 spots in my rankings from 2.0 to 3.0. And I would imagine he does fall behind some receivers like Zachariah Branch, maybe Chris Brazel, Omar Cooper, his teammate. Like, there are some receivers I could see him falling behind if I'm just being true to the process. But the reason why I'm just gonna keep planting my flag on this guy is I've just seen him be good. I've just seen him be a good and a receiver that can win at the NFL level. 15 touchdowns last year. You don't get 15 touchdowns as on a national championship team if you're not hashtag good at football. And sometimes I just don't get too much in the weeds. Who do I want on my team? I want a dog. You know that. I want a dog. I want a guy that can score touchdowns, come up in big situations. I want a guy that is good at football. He is unquestionably good at football. But the fit, as we start talking later in the year, when this conversation turns more to the fantasy focus, like we do, of course, the fit is going to matter so much with a guy like Surratt. But again, I'm not going to penalize him for future sins. We're here pre-combine. I don't know what his 40 time is. What I do know is every time I've watched this guy on film, he stands out as a baller, someone I want on my team.
I can say these same traits about a guy from Ohio State that I saw at the Senior Bowl, Davison Igbinosun, who 2 years ago had quite a bit of pump at Ohio State, and he's kind of pulled back a little bit. I guess you could say kind of on the Anthony Hill kind of trajectory, where it's like he's still been good, but
Mhm.
hasn't gotten a lot of the shine because, I don't know, you play with Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles and Caden McDonald and all these names, including the 8 from last year that went pro. And Igbinosun, I thought, had a really good Senior Bowl in the eyes of everybody having their eyes on Chris Johnson from San Diego State, Colton Hood from Tennessee. He was, to me, the most efficient and the most even keel cornerback at the event. And so he made it inside of my top 50 and quite a bit. He's actually at 26. And if you look at the landscape of the sport, he's like a third round pick for a lot of people. So I may be a bit over my skis. I got him at cornerback 5, but I really like Igbinosun from Ohio State, and he's been battle tested. I would say probably every single day of his collegiate life, based on the wide receivers that have gone through Ohio State the last couple of years. So even if you didn't see it in the game, I know he's got the practice reps to show it against Jeremiah Smith and against Emeka Egbuka last year and against Carnell Tate this year. So that's one name that I'll say I have in there that I do not see on yours. I don't think.
No, he's not. No, but listen, I'm not blind to the praise of what you've been talking about him ever since you went down to Mobile and saw. And I'll tell you one thing. I ain't ashamed to say this. You got to tell me a guy who's 6'2", 200 pounds is going to test well at the combine?
Yeah.
You might as well strap a 747 to his back. He's going to go soaring through the skies. Like, of course. He could be my biggest riser coming out of the combine.
Can I
sure.
ask you one question about a linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, who you have just outside the top 50 at 52, and I have just outside the top 50 at 51. You have him at 54, sorry, and I have him at 51. So we're both on the outside looking in. And I know what I want to see, and I'll tell you what I want to see from him this week. But is there anything that you'd like to see from like Jacob Rodriguez that could bump him up maybe into the top 50 or anything more? Because I think we're a little high compared to the consensus right now. I think he's a clear second-round pick. I think he's got everything in between the ears. I think physically we've seen it all year. I think there is some worry about his speed, but I think even his showing at the Senior Bowl was just like doubling down on what you saw during the season. of his ability to create turnovers, play sideline to sideline. What would bump him up? I don't think he'll ever get into that first round conversation, but
Mm-mm.
I think solidifying himself as a second round pick could definitely happen this week.
This is a great question that you bring up because Rodriguez might be one of the most unique cases going into Indy. Like he could choose two very different paths to trying to elevate his stock. He could lean out and improve the 40 time, which would make sense. I wouldn't blame him for doing that. But maybe I'm a little old school. If I was instructing him, I'd say eat all the steaks you can. Get down there a few days early, smash some shrimp cocktail, get those bench press reps up because you need to look like a thick-necked unit. So the NFL thinks that you have the size to play linebacker. Because in my opinion, speed isn't what's going to get him the bucks. The beef is going to get him the bucks because we know he's agile, but we also know he's not a demon on the field speed wise. His issue is being an undersized linebacker. Does he play safety? Is he fast enough to play safety? Don't answer that question. Answer the question: are you beefy enough to play linebacker? Because if NFL, these GMs, if they shake your hand and this kid's got he looks like Cody Carpentier. He's built like Cody. That's going to get you. I think that would get him bonus points for me. So I would like to see him come in looking like a wrestler from Iowa. That's what I want to see him looking like.
I watched Iowa wrestle last night. Funny you bring that up on ESPN while I was in my hotel in Lexington, and they got wrecked by Oklahoma State, which is not normal.
I mean, Oklahoma State's still like with a top 5 program historically.
Oklahoma State got Wilson.
Didn't Cormier go there?
No, Cormier went to Oklahoma State, but they got the new coach, David Taylor, who was formerly with Penn State. He's their new coach, and now their entire starting lineup is ranked in the country at Oklahoma State. They got 3 pins last night against Iowa, which if you watch college wrestling, a pin is not like an everyday occurrence.
No.
So I don't know why I went off on that. But anyways, I want to talk about quarterbacks to close this thing out. But first, I want to remind you guys to please click that like button. Please click subscribe. We're here every single day, 7 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Podcast drops the next morning. And make sure you get the podcast feed, the Draft Rankings podcast feed. Not all the shows are on the Player Profiler feed, just 2 of them per week. So you get all 5 if you go over to our channel, the Draft Rankings show on podcast. Also, reminder that we will have shows all week on the Roster Watch YouTube channel and on podcast covering the NFL Combine. We're here already, so we'll have head coaches and general managers on Tuesday, working into every single position Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, up until we have quarterback, wide receiver, running backs doing their drills on Saturday afternoon. Matty, quarterback. Obviously, we both have Fernando Mendoza top 5. But after that, we only have 1 quarterback in the top 50. You have Ty Simpson 13. I have him 30. Probably goes somewhere in between there. 13 to the Rams, all the way down to, you're looking at 33 to the Jets. I don't think he gets past the top 10 picks in the second round, but I think that's the conversation. I don't want to talk about Ty Simpson, though. I want to ask, among the other quarterbacks, who and what would you like to see this week from the quarterback group to maybe put somebody else in that top 50? Or is it even a conversation? For me, it's Cole Payton from North Dakota State, the lefty. I think he's got the strongest arm in the class among all the quarterbacks, and I think he could grow quite a bit this week. I've heard some 4th-round conversation. I think he goes earlier than that. I'm not sure he quite gets into round 2, but I think he can work himself into round 3. And I've also heard a little bit of Carson Beck stuff, and I can't remember who I was listening to the other day, but they said, gosh, I wish I could credit them. He said, I think it was Rand Carthen. The former GM for the Titans. He was in the pot. He was on the CBS pod, and he said, rhetorical question. Everything you liked about Tyler Shook last year, what quality doesn't Carson Beck have that Tyler Shook did? And why isn't Carson Beck in the same conversation Tyler Shook was a year ago?
We've said this literal line on multiple shows because we know exactly what Carson Beck does. At least Tyler Shuck had a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystique. You know
He had more
exactly what it looks like.
injuries, and also he doesn't have the
But there was more
quote
of
unquote
what could
dickhead
he
gene.
be? Yeah, call it that. That's fine. But we also know this. What we know about Carson Beck. What was the story you told our very listeners a couple weeks ago when you were watching the game with your wife? Carson Beck, of course, he threw an interception. We know what he's gonna do.
I said this is
That's
exactly what I said during that championship game. I said Carson Beck's had a great game, but that's usually how this works. And then he makes the mistake.
Yes, we know that. Yes, we didn't know that about Shuck.
We didn't know that about Shook. That's fair. Shook also didn't play with quite as much talent.
Right. I think it's a little bit different. I think that was kind of a cool content question, but kind of a shitty evaluation question because I think there's quite a bit of differences between the two prospects.
I got to crack up on Alex on that. He said, imagine if Shook was out there tossing it to Malachi Tony. Well, I mean,
that's fair.
He might be a first-round pick at this point. But anyway, is Beck in that conversation for you? Like he said, Nussmeier. I know you have both those guys in your top 100 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or is there another quarterback out there? Like, I mean, here's the deal, man. I don't know if Drew Aller's going to throw this weekend, but we've always talked about that frame and that arm, and I think he still has the abilities. And this is like the perfect situation for a guy like that who's been hurt for 5 months. People have forgotten that dude existed.
Mm-hmm.
To go, dude, you guys remember you were talking about me as a top 10 pick at one point.
That's right.
And he's not, I don't think, he's obviously not as physically broken and in his elder states, elder situation like Nussmeier and like Beck are. Like, I don't know. I think that for me, it's Peyton, but among those other guys, it might be Aller.
Aller's there. Nussmeier, you mentioned the no word. Degenerative when we talked about the Senior Bowl. So if the medicals,
that's the worry. I didn't say
we'll find out, right? This is where we find out. Indy is where we find out because whether it's said publicly by the teams or his camp, we'll hear it through the McShays, through the grapevine. So we'll hear about that. Beck, Aller, Klubnik, all of these guys, they should go down to Indy and ace this interview. They've been doing this a long time. They should ace this, but that's not the fun answer. The fun answer is that Taylon Green lights it up. Taylon Green's arm makes a couple scouts go, ooh, I can work with this. That's the fun answer. Is it the likeliest answer? Probably not. But what I will answer, I will add this to the Cole Payton talk. I wonder if any of these teams ask him to I don't know. I don't know what else he can do in the combine for testing, but I wonder if they ask him to do different roles, to take on different things. Because you had mentioned him being like a Taysom Hill weapon. I wonder if any of these teams go, Mr. Carpentier is right. Let's see if he can catch the ball. Let's see if he can block. Let's see if he can do this.
Are you putting that juju on me?
You did say that. You literally said a Taysom Hill type of player, type of weapon.
Timeout.
That's literally one of your quotes on this show.
With Taylon Green.
No, with Cole Payton.
No. With Taylon Green. I promise you. Find me a
Go back. You said Cole Payton. 100%,
I promise you.
100%. Tim Tebow.
I would never put
you
Cole
said,
Payton
go back.
Taysom Hill
go
in
to
the
the tape.
conversation.
Go to the tape. Edit it in. You mentioned that Cole Payton was like a Taysom Hill, Tim Tebow type of weapon.
I might have said Tim Tebow, but I would have never said Taysom Hill because
what's the difference, brother?
I don't hate a lot of guys. I viscerally dislike Taysom Hill as a player.
Well, that's not the point here. Right?
So I would never bring him up in a conversation with a guy that I like.
Oh, fine. Tim Tebow played a little tight end at the end of his career. Maybe the NFL wants to see what Cole Payton can do.
I'll do Tim Tebow with you.
That's fine. You're playing semantics. What I'm just saying is I want to see if they ask him to do anything
put
else.
Some bullshit.
That'd be interesting. Go back and look through it. No, you're just a scumbag.
I see what you're trying to do.
But no, this quarterback class, I will say this, and we've mentioned it, like there's a huge power vacuum of where the hierarchy is going to unfold, and Indy is going to be a great proving ground for everybody from 2 to 10. in terms of people's eyes when it comes to quarterback. I still am a believer in Simpson. I think he can show his athleticism. Says he's going to do the drills, run the 40. NFL scouts can see, wow, this kid can move. He is a good athlete. We know he can throw off platform. We know he can make plays. Maybe he can look a little bit more sound in his footwork and his consistency, his command of throwing the ball at the combine. I think he can lock himself in around one with a good performance. But the quarterback position as a whole is wide open.
You know, I just realized what the difference is between Tyler Shook and Carson Beck. I can't believe it took me this long, but the difference between Carson Beck and Tyler Shook is that Tyler Shook ran the 40 and he ran it damn fast. I don't think Carson Beck is running it, and he sure as hell isn't running it damn fast.
Yeah, truth.